Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to wNS9 Plus featuring Alex Stumpf. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Jim, we have Tyler, and of course, Alex from mlb.com. What is up, everyone?
We're just here for Alex.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very
I'm here for you guys. So yeah.
Lots to discuss. So yeah, appreciate you coming on here, Alex. It's always a good
thanks
time
for having me.
when you're on.
For the record, Alex looks great with the haircut.
Thank you.
Mature.
Thank you.
He knows my stance. I
kind of like the long hair, though.
No. He looks professional now.
I've
Nothing you didn't before, Alex.
No, I didn't look professional before, but I kind of like the counterculture look. Also,
but you look like
whatever.
Yeah.
You're the real deal. mlb.com.
Yeah. Can't believe that actually came to fruition, but yeah, no one's called BS yet, so here we are.
There you go. Yeah, a lot of stuff happened this week. The Pirates moved their arguably their best player to a new position. They fired or dismissed or not going to renew their longtime international coordinator, scout director. They are just a disaster right now based off of that Cubs series that we just watched. So yeah, it's rough times in Pirates Nation right now.
And didn't someone say that they were going to sweep that Cubs series?
You know what? I didn't say they were
Mamma
going
mia.
to. Hold on. I didn't say they were going to. I said, what if they sweep? I didn't say like it was going to happen. So I don't want to hear that.
They did not
didn't
sweep,
happen.
just for future prosperity reasons.
It didn't happen. They didn't sweep. Yeah.
No, that was a bad series right there.
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you
It
what.
was one of the worst I've ever seen.
Before we get any further with the show, let's get this here out there. So BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today, get on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. Yeah. A lot to talk about. Do we want to start with the Cruz stock, though?
Let's do it.
Rock and roll.
You know what? I mean, you and Tyler got to do the emergency podcast. I haven't really gotten a chance to like share my thoughts on you.
So naturally, he picks the day that Alex is on to do it.
Yeah,
Naturally.
So
It's like I know Alex is on, but let me have my platform.
But we're gonna
Hold
talk
on.
about Rosati.
Hold on. I was gonna say let's. I know Alex wrote an article about it yesterday. I think it was. It came out. So you put together kind of like the how his tools will translate, but let's before I kind of go in on my thoughts, I'd like to know like how much time and thought did they put into this?
I'm asking. Like they told O'Neill on Sunday, but it's been something that's been on the radar for a while. Like let's be totally candid here. This isn't something that just came out of the sky. This is something that even whenever this guy was coming up in 2021, 2022, that you have to at least have in the back of your mind, like, hey, can he actually do this? And a lot of it comes down to just, the frame. That's the big problem here. Like his speed for the first 5 seconds or how far he travels to 5 feet is the same rate that Rowdy Tellez does. And that's nothing against O'Neill, and he'll win, feet 5 to 90 or 5 to whatever. And that's the most important 5 feet, arguably, for a shortstop. So it's an uphill climb in that area. You have that great arm. You can leverage it really well in the outfield. You could, how do you want to use that speed? Do you want him to track down fly balls? If he can do that, I could see his two best tools as a fielder really translating better to center field than shortstop. So they're at a spot now where they have the extra infielders. IKF, I think, could be a Gold Glove nominated shortstop. Not saying that this was a move that was, personnel, driven. I asked that. The answer was no, but you kind of can't ignore that they've got a great defensive shortstop now, and they don't really have an answer in center field at the moment. So if you could kill two birds with one stone and, maybe maximize O'Neill as a player, you have to consider it. And they decided to pull off the Band-Aid and give it a shot.
Did you just call IKF a Gold Glove defensive shortstop? Where's Noah?
He could be if he gets.
Where's Noah? His arm's terrible.
He gets
The
range. He
arm's
makes the
not-
plays. He makes.
Yeah, the arm's not ideal. But I mean, you look at it like across the board, right? And defensive runs saved. He's been a pretty good shortstop throughout his career. Outs above average. He's not anything special, but he's passable. And I guess where I'm saying is I see the Pirates' vision here. Like, I understand what they're trying to do. Because you look at O'Neill Cruz, and he does possess all the tools you'd want to see in a center fielder, right? He can cover a lot of ground. He's got a really good arm. Like he looks like he should be able to play the position fairly well after getting, a few reps. And you've seen other shortstops and middle infielders make the shift to the outfield, and they've had a ton of success. Pirates were talking about acquiring one this deadline. Jazz Chisholm, Fernando Tatis Jr. moved. Jackson Merrill out in San Diego, he moved. So you've got like this happens all the time. I think the difference that I'm thinking here is I don't love IKF as like your everyday shortstop. Like, I feel like if somebody was pushing O'Neill Cruz out of the position, then I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. But right now, there's no one to push him out. IKF, I think, is best utilized on this team as like that Josh Harrison type role from the mid 2010s, where he's playing 5 to 6 days a week, but he's playing 2 games here, 1 game here. He's bouncing around because that position flexibility that he offers is one of his more valuable traits, I think. So I think that's where like he's best suited. And until there's someone to say, you know what, I'm going to be a better shortstop than O'Neill Cruz, and it's going to make this team better. I personally would have kept Cruz at short. Now, with all that being said, I'm not going to bash the move right now, because again, I see the vision, right? O'Neill Cruz playing center field. You look at the free agent market this coming off season for center fielders, and there's not really that much there. It's Harrison Bader or
Nothing.
us,
It's nothing.
basically. So it's like, okay, I can fill this hole that I'm going to have next season with O'Neill Cruz. And I've got a passable shortstop in Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And I think passable is a pretty good word. Like if you play Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at shortstop pretty much every day, he's probably giving you 2 to 3 WAR, like a 2 to 3 WAR season. He's going to be an average major league ball player. So you look at that situation, you're like, okay, well, that situation's better than what they have this year, where it's Cruz and Taylor, right? So if they had to go another route where they go bargain bin shopping for a center fielder next year, like this is a better scenario. But if they're going to do this, it means they're not spending money on another shortstop because they've got him already. They're not spending money on a center fielder. I think they have, according to Ethan's spreadsheet, Ethan Houlihan, his spreadsheet, I think has $41 million in future commitments for 2025, somewhere in that area. If you're doing this, you've got to make some moves. You've got a pitching staff that you don't really need to spend a ton of money on, at least in the rotation. You have to spend money in the corners, and you've got to bring in some offensive talent. So I'm gonna withhold judgment on this whole decision until the offseason. If the Pirates can go out there and add legitimate hitters while doing this shift, I'm okay with it. If they don't, and they do the same old stuff that they've been doing for years, Not a fan. That's my 2 cents.
I think that's the offseason in general. I mean, you got to add to this club in this offseason. Everyone's going to say that. And there's so many areas that just getting average production out of, if they would have had an average bullpen, even if they would have gotten average offensive production out of several positions, like this team is a playoff team, but they didn't. So they could realistically, like, we're not talking like, oh, they have to get a $20 million free agent, like guys that should be in their price range and maybe extend the price range, beyond what you normally do, what you're comfortable with, to get those type of guys. They can do that.
Maybe.
But I just sticking with Cruz, real fast, just to wrap up with Cruz, like I wrote why I think his tools play maybe best in center field. I also can't ignore that this outfield is kind of a mess right now. Like Brian Reynolds is an all-star hitter, but he's been one of the worst performers in the game, in left. And what do you do there? What do you do with Jack Sawinski? Brian De La Cruz has heated up a bit now, but he had a real bad start to his Pirates tenure, and he wasn't exactly, like a 3-4 WAR player with the Marlins. So what do you do with this outfield? O'Neill at least gives an impact player in the center of it.
Yep. And like I said, that's where I see the vision. Like I see what they're trying to do here. They just need to finish they need to execute. They need to execute this offseason. They weren't able to do it this past offseason. They went after a bunch of guys, but they weren't able to close the deal on really anybody. That needs to change this offseason. They need to close deals for actual good players, because they weren't able to do it this offseason.
If I could add just one more thing, I think the concern immediately was, how is O'Neill Cruz going to react? And I think a lot of fans shared that perspective, but I'm sure he's disappointed. It seems like he's maybe, I don't know, not buying in completely, but he welcoming it a little bit. You're there every day. Maybe you can shed a touch of light.
Yeah, no, I mean, he is disappointed. I mean, the Pirates were open with that. I mean, not should be, but it's very understandable to see why he is disappointed. This is something that he took more infield practice, I feel like, than any other fielder on the Pirates this year. He really wanted to make this work, but sometimes just it can't. I could try every day the rest of my life to dunk a basketball. I'm not going to dunk. So, like, at some point, you do just have to make those type of moves. So, yeah, he's pretty healthy with this right now. Like, he is as reasonably, good mind space as you could expect whenever you're told your job you can't do this part of your job that you love, that you've wanted to do forever. So, yeah, and like Jake threw in there, 103.3 mile per hour throw from the outfield yesterday. I think if he uncorks a couple more of those, he's going to be like, maybe this is kind of fun. So he's not pouting. It is not oh, look at his body language, it is so bad. It is a guy who is reasonably disappointed, but he is attacking the new position. And to the Pirates' credit, whenever O'Neill says, if we're doing this, I want to go in the and play, they let him play. So credit on that end.
Good. Yeah, because that's honestly the way I look at it. I mean, I get the disappointing part. It's a pride thing. You pride yourself. You want to be a shortstop. You want to prove everyone wrong. Now they're telling you you're wrong. We were right. Yeah. I mean, and go back to the Kutch days. Like when Kutch was moved off at center. This is my position. I mean, he was taking it bad as well.
Yes.
I understand the disappointing part. But honestly, the way I'm looking at it right now, and of course, it's an outside perspective, but he seems to be like fully embracing it. I'm loving what I'm seeing, this transition from him in that perspective. So I don't know. Like I'm with Jim. That was pretty much my viewpoint on this also. I don't hate the idea. I don't hate the move. I don't think they're setting up IKF in the best position by making it everyday shortstop. I'd rather him be in that role and find an everyday shortstop as well. But I'm okay with it right now as well.
If I could just add one last little touch here. I guess like the positive that I'm seeing right now from O'Neal Cruz is I think we're seeing a little bit of maturity from him. Like that's really what you want to see here.
Yeah. I think he's grown a lot this year, and you can see it on the results. I mean, you guys, I think more than anyone, would be like, hey, look at what he's done since July 1st, since June 1st, since May 1st. He has gotten better every single month of this season. And he is, I think, matured over the course of the last year or two. Like last year sucked. Last year was a big blow, but I think he has come out of it, a better person, and arguably maybe not as, physically, unbridled, but like maybe, better as a player having to go through that.
Right.
Yep. All right. 2 weeks ago on NS9 Live, we had a show titled it was like shakeups need to happen, right? And we kind of went through the whole organization, like what needs to change here. And one of the things that we mentioned was Director of International Scouting, Junior Vizcaino. He was hired in 2017, replacing Rene Gallo after he was doing some shady stuff. He's been in that position now for 8 years now. One player he signed has reached the major leagues, and that's Luis Ortiz out of the Dominican Academy there that they're investing a ton of money into. So you reported to this week that the Pirates are not going to be renewing his contract. So I guess just tell us a little bit about that. That was one of the people that we were like, something needs to change here. This isn't working.
Yeah, this is someone who, like you said, he inherited after Rene Gallo, so he was inheriting about as bad a situation as he could. And under his time, he brought a lot of credibility back to the Pirates in the Dominican. He oversaw that facility getting built up to one of the best in baseball. It just hasn't yielded enough players. And it really is as simple as that. Like you said, Luis Ortiz is the only player that the Pirates have signed out of the Dominican as an international free agent who has reached the major leagues. And Luis is kind of a miracle of a player in a lot of ways. Like he was cut by a couple different teams beforehand. He had that huge breakout in 2022. So like if he is your best player that has come out of the Dominican that you signed in 8 years, that's not bad, because a lot of these guys take 4 or 5 years to fully develop or reach the major leagues. You're signing 16, 17-year-old kids, but there is no okay, who's next? Is it Chang, who came from the Asian side of, the international scouting department, and I don't think is really a major league player? Is it Bay, who, they only got really because he was a free agent at the right time, and they were the only team that had money to sign him after the Braves got popped? They have one guy who their highest rated prospect who's come from the Dominican side is Yordani De Los Santos, who I think is number 12. And then the next highest international is probably Chang, and then Blako Jr. There is no okay, this is the guy, that was part of the big thing this year in particular. They really wanted to see how did these past draft classes come together. And yeah, the Pirates have some guys who are on that top 30 list, but they're all pretty much the back end kind of fringe. Well, let's see what happens type of guys. They haven't produced enough. And this is just me speaking right now. Pirates should be producing a lot of international players. They spend every dollar pretty much that they can. They acquire, players. They acquire that extra space to buy more players. They have top-notch facility, either in the major leagues or on the verge of the major leagues, or at the very least, really highly rated prospects in Bradenton and Greensboro, and they don't have that many to say for it. So that's really what it came down to. They wanted to give as much time as possible because of what he inherited and what they were able to build up in terms of facilities wise, but there aren't enough players in this to speak for, and that's really what it comes down to. What have you produced? And there's just not enough.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing that you wrote in your article today. And I said, if you haven't checked it out, check it out. Came out this afternoon, but you mentioned that like they kind of realized this problem earlier. They were like, you can have like, let's give you this year to see if we can turn this around and see if any of these newer classes that you've signed, develop into much. And I guess they didn't like what they saw this year. And so, yeah, he, so was he, I guess the interesting part of this too is like a whole new signing period starts on January 15th. So like, what does this do to like that next class that has to be signed here in a few months?
My general impression is it doesn't impact it all that much. And for what it's worth, I've heard good things about this class that they're going to sign. So take that for what it is. Maybe there are some changes. I mean, it is a new factor. If you are 16, 17 years old and you're going to the Pirates and you worked with a junior, and someone else is coming in, like, well, maybe I talked to someone else before I actually put pen to paper. It doesn't sound like there are going to be a lot of changes on the international side. In general, this isn't like a complete overhaul of anything. Like whoever they do bring in, I'm sure will have some autonomy for some decisions, but I don't think this is like, okay, it's got to be a complete 180. We're tearing it all down and just starting anew in this big facility. I think this is more just getting a new head.
Yeah. Do you see them going internal with it or going outside the organization?
It sounds like it's going to be a pretty thorough search. They haven't started the search yet, so I would imagine there's going to be a lot of, at the very least, talking of external people.
It's not going to be conducted by Corn Ferry, is it?
That is a deep cut. Wow.
Yeah, let's hope Corn Ferry isn't making any baseball ops hires anytime soon.
I'm just hoping the new guy's not from New Hampshire.
Hey, you know what though? I found out today Sarah Gellis is also from Amherst. So like, yeah, I guess
it's a prerequisite.
It's some nepotism there, but not really. She's accomplished a lot in her career, so I want to make sure I put that out.
Someone didn't read the March feature. Wow.
I think we've I think we've kind of covered just like the woes of this international talent pool that this team's put together over the years, and the fact that you look at their top 30 list right now and there's no one on there that really excites you all that much. The ones who do are young
Santos
and lower
does for
levels. Yeah, they're young, lower levels, but they still have a ton of flaws and they're really far away from the majors. Like the ones that you do kind of feel good about are still very far away.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. Like, Junsuk Shim was part of the trade package for Brian Daly Cruz, but again, that's coming from the Asian scouts. What's been the big trade piece? Was it Rodolfo Nolasco for a DFA Dalton Jeffries? Like, what is this really yielded?
Right. And what's funny too is Peter even mentions like Luis Peralta made his major league debut, who they just traded to Colorado. But guess what? Peralta was signed by Gallo. He wasn't even like he was pre 2017. So it's just
15.
Yeah. So it's just just nothing to show for many of these classes. And it's disappointing because you mentioned like if you're the Pirates, this is the place where you should be excelling. You get extra money to spend too because you're a small market team. Like the Pirates have probably spent more money on the international market over the last handful of years than anybody, and just don't have anything to show for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any figures to back this up, but I have to imagine they're in the top 5, if not higher, for money spent on the international market because, like you said, they have the larger bonus pools, and then they trade Austin Hedges for international money. They've done that a couple times. So
that's true. Yeah, they usually acquire more. Yeah, it's a really good point. They have a lot to spend on the draft, and like you're saying, like they invest so much money into that facility and such. I mean, all the BAMTech money supposedly went there, and every single year, it's just like, where's the fruits of the labor coming from? I mean, that was one thing, at least like back in the day, there was a lot of international talent coming up, and it's gone. that's just not a pipeline anymore. And when you're not succeeding in the MLB draft that often, it hurts.
I mean, they're getting pitchers pretty good in that in the amateur draft.
Fair.
That's true. That's true. That is the one thing they figured out. They
Yeah.
figured out how to identify and develop American pitching prospects.
I have comments on that, but I'll save that.
That's it.
They never did international. I'll say that from the the last regime to this regime. They can't figure out international pitchers, but
Nope.
If I can just
Luis-
ask Alex's opinion here,
Luis-
like, sorry, what do you think the disconnect is there with the international prospects? Because I just want to know Alex's opinion on why is this not working? Is it talent? Is it development? Where are they missing here?
I mean, they've given out some 7-figure contracts for guys who were highly rated on, MLB Pipeline and a lot of these other, prospects by sites. And I'm gonna also, if I could restart the answer, part of this is a crapshoot. There's a good part of it, and like I said, like Luis Ortiz is kind of a miracle player. He's part of that crapshoot kind of way where he's bounced around a couple teams, and then now he's throwing 98. Okay, well now he's a starting pitcher. So like stuff like that does happen. You're betting on a 16-year-old kid for what is he going to do whenever he's 23, 24, 25. So it's a very tough market right there. But at some point, you do have to look at development and beyond just the Dominican, but just like top to bottom, like why hasn't this organization really developed a ton of hitting in general? And I'm taking your question, I'm putting it on the other side on it. Like we talked about, like how much pitching they're producing right now. Why haven't they really done it on the hitting side? So I think you do have to evaluate a lot of things whenever it comes to stuff like that. But to answer the question, it's very tough to actually figure it out. They've gone after some big fish, but whenever you land a couple of those big fish and they don't really pan out, you have to look, okay, well, this has to be a development problem. If everyone says this guy is really good and you're able to land him and nothing comes of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to say the same thing. That's something that seems they'd be doing different, these days also. Back in the day, it was just a lot of just spread the wealth, just sign a ton of players. You're not going after the large guys. Like you said, though, it's a crapshoot. So just hedge your bets. If you sign a lot of players, some will pan out than lesser players of the talent. It seems like this time around, they're focusing on, landing some top 10 players internationally. But like you mentioned, and you're showing where they at.
Yeah.
Nowhere to really
and maybe
count.
Tony Blanco does, pan out, and Yordani De Los Santos, and those 7-figure, the high 6-figure contracts do pay out. It just hasn't right now.
Right.
Yeah. So that was one of the people we talked 2 weeks ago who needs to go. There were a few others. So this is more just like what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen? But let's move to the people who I think most people want on the chopping block. And I think the number one, but let's actually start with the bigger guy in charge here. Ben Cherington, year 5 of his rebuild. This team has made no improvements this season. The record is they're on pace to basically finish. They're on pace to finish worse than they did last year. Like you mentioned before, just absolutely no hitting talent acquired, developed, top to bottom. I think he did a good job with his rotation. He put that together. But you're starting to see people maybe either get overused in the bullpen where they're not pitching as well as they should be or they have in the past. So I want to start with Ben Cherington. First off, 2020 was his first year. Last place, 4th place, last place. Is Ben Cherington on the hot seat right now?
Not to my knowledge. I'd be very surprised if there is a move there. Like, just overarching for everyone here, because I'm sure you got to ask a couple names here. This year hasn't gone as, anyone had really hoped. Like a lot of players, talk playoffs. That's why I wrote playoffs, often, it's like, hey, this is a goal here. They haven't taken that step forward, but I don't think anyone can argue that the 40-man roster is worse today than it was this time 1 year ago. Like the roster is more talented now. And if you are Bob Nutting, I don't see any reason why you change horses right now whenever you have Paul Skeens and Jared Jones in their rookie years, and you got Bubba Chandler coming back, and you got you've got the pitching, with the starting pitching, which is half of the battle for the most part. So what do you do from there? I don't see them changing lanes with Ben this offseason unless something goes biblically wrong down the stretch.
Anybody got a follow up?
Sorry, Paul.
I mean, go ahead, Denardo. I've talked enough.
No, I guess I was just going to reiterate. I mean, that makes sense. And that's, I think, why we're not even talking so much about it, because I just feel he's safe also. That's just not going to be the route that's going to happen. I would like to hear maybe there's a little fire, like maybe, heated seats. They don't have to be hot, but maybe heated, at all.
I mean, this is just
like,
me. I think 2025 is a very different thing. If, they don't get, better and they don't, compete for the playoffs, I think at that point it's like, well, I gave you 6 years. I gave you, but what do you show? What do you have to show for it? Why should I continue to believe rather than, okay, right, I'll give someone else a chance with these, shiny young toys to,
okay,
get them over the hump. So we do hear rumors of hot seat if things don't get better. But that's a guess on my part. That's pure speculation.
Yeah. Tyler, you got anything?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question was 2025. If we're in the same boat right here, I can't imagine keeping him around. I just can't. Year 6 of the same old. You lucked in the Paul Skeens with a lottery pick. And that's what you really have to show for it, other than Jared Jones. That is still a question mark. Like, it's been bad. Plain and simple. It's been bad. This stretch has been bad for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to – it is year 5. 2020 was also stuff that was out of his control. So I personally have kind of viewed this as like the 4th year of the rebuild in that way. Like, I know nobody wants to hear that, but like, that's just kind of my takeaway of like what he inherited. He didn't really do a whole lot of 2020. 2021, I kind of felt like was ground floor. Okay, starting anew.
I don't know. 2020 might have been a better roster.
Not that it really changes much for anyone.
Okay. Cubs seem to turn around.
So
quick.
I
Reds seem to turn around pretty quick.
Yeah. I
did the Reds?
I think my problem.
How many playoff games did they go to?
Reds made the playoffs in 2020, but that's about it.
Yeah,
they've at least put some winning
seasons
together since then, though. Yeah,
I'd also argue that they have a much better future than the Pirates right now.
If I had to pick a team, like just a team's roster and farm system, like which one's better, I'm picking the Reds organization top to bottom.
And I'm just simply they're the same place where the Pirates are today, but they started later.
They also have a terrible manager. I think the Reds probably have the worst manager in baseball, and
he's bad.
That has a lot to do with where they're at. But I don't know how he still has a job, quite frankly. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
No, I'm talking about David Bell, by the way. So, okay. So Cherington, you think he's safe? I think he's safe too. I think the Pirates at least give him one more year to like execute this plan. I don't think it's going to go well. So I think we're just basically going to waste another year, but I think that seems to be the consensus from everybody. Now shifting gears, Ben Cherington added some pieces at the deadline to a team that was in a playoff hunt. And then the Pirates went on to lose 10 straight games, 11 of 12, put together a completely abysmal August, coming off one of the most embarrassing series I've ever watched. So the guy leading the helm on the field, Derek Shelton. Hot seat. How hot is his seat? Is it scorching? Is it burning? Does he have days, weeks left? Do you think he has the rest of the year? Like tell us about Shelton. What's going on there?
I think this last month is a very important month for Derek Shelton. Like, this is a very, if yesterday, if that, blowing a 7-run lead in 3 innings, if that is true rock bottom, how do you respond from that? How does this team respond from that? How do they, do they continue? Do they play hard? Do they finish September strong? Because I feel like everyone wants to know what a win total is. It's not as simple as how many games did they win this year. Like, that's part of the calculus down the stretch here, but it's not just 77 wins or 82 wins. Okay, he's back. Anything less, he's out. It's how hard do they play? How does this go? If they finish September strong and they finish with a winning record, what do they have? Like 29 games. If they win 17 or so of them, you could at least make the case, hey, 7 out of the last 8 months, we played baseball. We played playoff quality baseball. We played winning baseball, and we had one really bad month in between there. I think that's enough to maybe keep his job. Big thing is the contract here. I don't know what the status is. He had the extension, but I don't know if his contract is up for 2020 after 2024. Does he have a deal in place for 2025? Is it a club option? I poked around. I can't get nothing. Like, I know it wasn't like a super long-term deal like his original 4-year, but like, that's all I could say. So there is a big question mark here. How do they respond from this? How do they finish off the season? If they play well, if they could just, what do they have to play? Like 19-10 ball to finish 500? That's not the worst thing in the world. 19-10. I mean,
Well,
that's
won
not
7 in the last 26.
unachievable.
I don't know if you saw
I'm
them
not
this weekend,
saying it's
Alex.
likely. I'm saying it's not, impossible. Like, they've got the
You're right.
roster
It's
is
not
healthier.
impossible.
It's an easier schedule down the stretch. I'm just saying it's Stilo for he put it like a month ago. I don't know if he still feels that way. It's like team, finishes roughly 500 one year, takes a step back the next year. Do you fire someone? A lot of people are like, yeah. And he's like, all right, a lot of you guys would have fired Jim Leland after 1989. I'm not saying Derek Shelton is Jim Leland, but it's kind of the same thing that you have to view with Cherington. Like, if you change horses here, you got to feel real confident about what you're doing here. So if I had to take a guess, I would say it's a coin flip at the moment, and it's really going to come down to how do they play in this last month of the season. If they play hard, they play well, you can make a case that it was one really bad month, and you've got this young roster that will get a lot of guys back next year. You'll get Endy back, you'll get Oviedo back, you'll get Moretta back. It's going to be potentially a better roster just from guys getting healthy. So if you could add on to that, I think it's reasonable to have, higher expectations for 2025. Now, that said, if you do that, it's the hottest seat in baseball. Like, you got to win now. There are no more developmental wins. There are no other ways around. It's like, you've got to win now. But Shelton's well liked by his team. He's well liked by the organization. I get the frustrations about how they have not taken a step this year, and how, this month in particular, they entered August in the thick of the wild card race, and now they are very firmly not. They're probably closer to having a lottery pick than, making the playoffs. So I get all that frustration. I don't know if they are going to make a change unless they don't feel confident in him going forward.
So what I gathered there was, if there's any Pittsburgh Pirates listening, do not play hard, do not play well, because for the love of God, we need a new manager.
So I want to, you brought up some good things there, and I just want to kind of dig a little deeper here. I think there's a lot to playing hard, right? But at some point, the wins and losses matter. They matter. And I think you brought up a really interesting point there that we haven't talked about much, and I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about. But if this managerial job is open this offseason, it is an extremely attractive job. There are a lot of people out there who would love to fall into this situation with Paul Skeens and Mitch Keller and Jared Jones and O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds. Like you mentioned, like a lot of teams that are getting a new manager, it's like, okay, it's time to rebuild. That's not going to be the case here. Like that's going to a new manager is going to step in and they're going to be handed all the tools that the Pirates can put out to compete next year. So I think that's one reason why you almost have to make the move, because guess what? There are better, like if you can upgrade the position, we talk about upgrading positions all the time. If you can upgrade the position of manager, you should do it. And if the opportunity is there to do it, where you say, okay, you know what, Shelton, you did everything we asked you to do throughout this rebuild. It's just, you know what, we need to go another direction. Like, I think that's just where they sit at this point. Again, this is an attractive job, like you said, and I think they could get a pretty good manager into this role if it's open and they go out there and they do their due diligence. I also think there's something to be said for just, this is the guy who just led you through the worst years of Pittsburgh Pirates baseball for years, right? And like, is the rebuild truly over if you don't make a switch there? Like, he's the guy who's just lost for 5 straight years after this season. Like, I think there's just multiple things that lead to a change makes sense. And I think you brought up a really good point where this is an attractive job for the next guy if this position's open.
Yeah, it is. And I'm also going to say this here. This is a complete devil's advocate moment here. The Pirates have lost. What's their record in one-run games? What is it this month? 1-8,
I want to say it's
2-8.
It's like
It's
21
bad.
and 27. Yeah. Last I looked.
Yeah, like it's real bad. Like, but there are about 4 or 5 games that they are like a bloop single or, IKF making that play with 2 outs in the ninth, where if they do that, they're 500. They're still kind of in the wild card chase. I don't think we're really talking about that. So I'm not saying they lost those games. I'm not pretending that they won them here, but I'm just saying how razor thin this margin is between, like, oh, he has to go. He's, he's what's holding this team back toward, versus, hey, the Pirates are still in the playoff hunt. He's a pretty good manager. It's so razor thin. And that's part of that calculus that you have to take into consideration here. I know they won 76 games last year. I watched Colin Selby give the ball to Andre Jackson and somehow produce 6 innings of 1-run ball. I don't know. I genuinely do not know how they won 76 games last year with that pitching staff. They had 2 starting pitchers. That was amazing. And I kind of am taking that into consideration when evaluating what do you do with Derek Shelton after 2024. He got the absolute most out of his players that year. Now, that doesn't mean that he's the right guy for 2025, but I think that's also in the, whenever you're making this decision. So there's a lot that you have to go into whenever you look at this. It's not pretty. It is. I don't envy the decision. And it would be a whole lot easier if they somehow won 20 games in September or won 3. And it's like, well, there you go.
Alex, just to rebut that real quick, you can cite the record of the 1-run games. I think that's where the manager makes a difference. Like, if you're a good manager, you win those 1-run games. You can call it luck all we want, but like, there are games that are 1-run games because your manager failed in multiple situations.
I'm not going to fight back on that. You're probably right, but I'm going to just take Wednesday, for example. What would you have done differently than what Shelton did with what you had available? Like,
Wednesday was a different situation. Like, I mean, David Bednar blew the game, plain and simple. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't just him. It was Chapman also.
Yeah.
It was your three best pitchers
It was.
in the bullpen.
It's also-
I mean,
But
it
I,
was,
there are
a long
more
list of things, but
examples,
yes,
I think,
yeah, like it's
the other way.
yes.
Like the game before, Heller and not Majinski.
Right. I think there's more situations the other direction. But
Heller
also,
over Majinski
if
in
they
that inning,
fail
I
there,
would. I'm willing to hear that. Yeah.
like they're your top three guys. We all know what they're the guys you're counting on coming into this year. At the end of the day, Derek Shelton's the one that's got to take the fall for it. When they're not performing, it's got to be Derek Shelton that takes the fall for it.
Someone's head's got to roll, and I'm again speculating here. Even if
I know.
Shelton comes back next year, I see changes coming to the coaching staff just in general.
Yeah,
I think that's
no, they
kind of a
have to,
given. Like
for sure.
there's got to be adding or a shakeup or whatever. Like they can't just roll out everything again the same year. This team did not take that step that they were supposed to this year.
Yeah.
That has to be accounted for.
Cool.
so it sounds like Vizcaino, who we said needed to go, he's gone. Shelton, who we said needed to go, 50-50.
Probably saying.
Cherington, safe.
Tell him I
That's
said hello.
to recap.
Hey, Noah.
Hi, Noah.
I can hear that voice a mile away.
This guy doesn't know how podcasts work. I used to podcast with this guy. Can you believe this? And now we're ruining
Noah,
what we
who would
together.
you fire?
How about that? No, Noah's
All
wrong.
right.
Noah's had
Well-
a few more beverages than I.
Well, I know you had a kind of a hard stop, but we appreciate you coming on here. It's always a good time when you're here. But anything else for you before you hop off?
Keep reading. I don't know. Like this is going to be a very pivotal month. That's my shameless plug. I don't have anything else that I haven't really written that I didn't say in this. Just keep reading whatever. This is going to be.
You can find
baseball.
you can find Alex's stuff on MLB.
That's my plug. My plug is me.
Pirates.com. Sign up for the newsletter too, like the Pirates.com newsletter. You can just you can just have Alex's stuff just emailed to you every day. So it's
Just Google his
that
name. He's
should've-
pretty important.
super handy. Yeah,
That should have been my plug, my newsletter. Thank you, Jim.
newsletter. There you go.
Jim
Mom, me.
Rosati.
Yeah. All right, Alex, go have fun.
Yeah.
Go have a few beers.
All right.
You deserve it after watching that Cubs series.
You do.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for
appreciate
being on, guys.
All right, see you, man.
Well.
Now it's just the three of us.
Just the three of us.
The chat was not loving Alex's answers to those last two questions.
No. And I mean, I can understand.
Yeah.
The Cherington one, obviously, I think, not love the answer, but we see the writing on the wall. But was Shelton? I mean, hey, a lot of it again, like he's speculating what the Pirates are going to do. You might not like it, but it's not like it's his decision that's being made. He's telling you what the Pirates are probably leaning towards. And hearing his answers, it just seems like, yeah, I don't know. This last month is going to mean a lot. So I guess take it what it is. If this last month goes miserably, maybe we'll be happier. If it has some miraculous turnaround, like he said, they're playing better, that might save them. Say, all right, we're going to go into next year. I don't know.
First off, I don't think this team is capable of turning it around right now. And what does turning it around even mean? Like, what does it mean?
I know.
Like,
and I
just
wanted to
playing
ask Alex some
500.
stuff, but I know he's
Like 500
Who's probably-
baseball is not good enough for me. I'm sorry.
Like playing 500 baseball from here on out gets you to 77 wins, I think. Congratulations. Like, yeah. So I think, like, barring this team going on just some miraculous Oakland A's run from like where they're gonna make a movie about him, like Shelton's job's done. I don't see a situation where he gets retained. I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're
I mean, I
beyond the
see
point
it.
of like, sorry, go ahead, Turner. You didn't get to talk for like 40 minutes. You go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I see it though. It's just part of the nature of the Pirates. I mean, I see it. It shouldn't be, but I see it.
Go ahead, Tyler.
I don't get it anymore, man. Like, this isn't good enough. You can play 500 ball down the stretch, but you mentioned it, Jim, 77 wins. That's not good enough. I don't care if it's close to their over-under. You have Paul Skeens here. You have this pitching staff. You have to make the change. We talked about the pieces that are already here. I've said that probably 1,000 times, man. The hard part's done. You have the pitching staff that can go win playoff baseball games. This is an attractive job, as attractive as a Pirates job can probably get. This might be the most attractive this job has been in my lifetime and will ever be.
I think that's true.
Go get a real manager, not a guy that's just loyal.
And that's, like I said, that's something that Alex said that I hadn't really even considered. Like, if you are a manager who maybe you've been taking a few years off, but you've proven that you're a winner and you're really just waiting for like the right opportunity to kind of have like one more final run before you retire, this is a good spot for it right now. Like, it's set up pretty nicely for you. So when
Anybody
I
would
say,
love to have Paul Skeens.
like, and I know like we hate him as a fan base, but like I think what this team needs right now is a manager who's won before. And Tyler's probably mad at me because I'm
I know.
going to say the same name.
Yoink.
But like,
Can I get
they
my
need a
wine glass?
they need a Joe Madden. They need a, you know, and we were talking about it in the Discord today too. Join the Discord if you haven't yet. But like a Buck Showalter, like someone who has done it before. They've led a locker room. They've won. And they can walk into a situation where it's like, okay, the past 5 years, that's the past. Like, going forward, we're winning. And you know, like I said, Joe Madden, Buck Showalter, Terry Francona. You can even I would even throw like Scott Service in the mix there. I know he hasn't won as much as those guys, but like he's won some games and he's been around some good teams. But like, that's the kind of manager this team needs. They need a guy who has led a locker room for many years. He knows how to win and he knows how to get the best out of his players. So like, no more first time manager. Go back. Like I said, it worked the first time they did this with Clint Hurdle. Like, go get a guy like that who's managed for a long time, knows how to lead a team.
Someone from the moment he walks through that door commands respect.
Yeah. I don't want to say it on the air, but you need a big swing and you know what. That's what they need as a manager right now. They need a dude that just commands the respect. And Clint Hurdle was that guy. We can argue about what he was, X's and O's wise, or just day-to-day stuff. But the dude benched Andrew McCutchen in his first year. Derek Shelton ain't doing that. You need a guy that's just different. And Derek Shelton's not different. He's just a run-of-the-mill nice guy that probably is good in a good situation. Not here.
Yeah. Max says it good. You know, like a guy who will stick up for him, fight for him, but also won't make excuses. Like, I think that there is a mold that they need to go after, and it's that older manager who's done it and they want to get back into it, and they can walk into a good situation here. Like, there's not a lot of managers would love to have Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, Jared Jones, 1, 2, 3.
Right. The mold
A
was the
lot
guy
of
that was in the booth on Sunday.
Maybe not that old.
I mean, 10 years younger, I'd take him.
Old, fine, but
Yeah.
again, the mold, like that guy.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
I think Joe Madden is the guy we're all thinking about, to be honest with you. Like, I would take Joe Madden right this second.
That's going to be funny. I'll put it that way. The answer is yes, but I'm just imagining Twitter the day that has announced that the Pirates added Joe Madden.
You know what else should you also need someone that's not just going to be a yes man to the front office. You need someone just a little pushback. Like, we don't need to know about the pushback. And maybe Derek Shelton does push back. We don't know about it, but you need someone that maybe just a little more fight in them that way. Not just we're okay, we're rebuilding, it's fine. I have no tweets to delete about Joe Madden, by the way.
I think a lot of fans do.
I don't.
I think they do. But no, I think that's it. I think you go after, like, you swing for the fences here because it's a good job and you should be able to get somebody good.
It also might be the cheapest upgrade you can make. Like,
Right.
what's a new manager? Like a couple million more a year?
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, we talk about upgrading, like make upgrades. There's an opportunity to upgrade here. So do it.
And it's not even just the manager, it's who they bring in with them. Like, you
Yeah,
go
right,
with
the
some
whole
of those
staff.
other guys you mentioned. You don't have an Andy Haynes hanging around here for way too long. They're going to bring in guys that might actually know what they're doing.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, like I said, barring some miraculous turnaround, I can't see Shelton keeping his job. And like I didn't think Cherington was on the hot seat, so Alex saying that kind of just reaffirms that. He was pretty adamant that Ben's back, but he was very, very wishy-washy on Shelton, so I think it's safe to say that Ben is likely coming back and that he'll get another opportunity for this. And I think hiring another manager kind of gives him like another reason to get another year, right? It's just like, hey, let me try with a new guy.
Right. I'm with you. Because if you keep him and you fail next year, it's like you're gone. You get a new manager and you find some success, you can keep the job still. Either way, it's a rough spot. Pirates are completely falling apart, and I don't know if we really have answers. And it sucks because, again, it's year 5. And sure, Alex, you can excuse 2020. I'm not. I still, though, I'm not. Everyone had a 2020. That was there for all 30 teams as well. I get it. That was his first year here, getting accustomed into things. But also at the same time, Cherington decided to keep virtually everybody from the last regime. And here we are. So this is why you're waiting until 2024 to move on from Junior Vizcaino.
Do you guys think that Bob Nutting just is scared to death to fire people?
I said Ben Cherington was.
I think it's Bob Nutting that's just scared to death to fire people. Like, how long it took him to fire Neil Huntington? He waited till the last day of the season to fire Clint Hurdle. Neil Huntington got forever.
The Hurdle, that's not Bob Nutting had nothing to do with Clint Hurdle. Like, Bob Nutting fired Neil Huntington, but I don't think he waited too long. Like, you could say the whole situation, like maybe he should have fired him like 2 weeks earlier, but it's not that. Like, Huntington wasn't kept around seasons too long.
But it sure wasn't decisive. Because,
It
again,
was-
we were just talking in the group
That was
chat.
a weird spot.
They
it
started
was
the
very-
coaching search with Huntington.
Yeah, like that 2019 offseason was weird in that, they moved on from Hurdle and then it took them like an extra few weeks, I think, to move on from Huntington.
They started
like,
the manager hiring process without a GM.
Right.
With Neil Huntington still doing it.
But what I'm saying is, like, I don't think, like, it wasn't that late. I would have done it a few weeks earlier, but like, Huntington deserved 2019.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I guess.
But when Hurdle goes,
What are we doing?
you ended up firing Neil Huntington. Again, you had no decisive motive. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. And then oddly, while you're still having him search for your next manager, like, all right, we're gonna let you go now. And then
then you
holds
hired-
over.
And then you hired just Neil Huntington 2.0.
Well, you allow Corn Ferry to hire Neil Huntington 2.0.
Yeah. It's frustrating because, again, like I've said it multiple times, like, I don't think they needed to rebuild in the first place. I don't think they had to rebuild in the first place. If you don't trade Starling Marte in 2020, who knows how 2020 goes? The Marlins and the Reds made the playoffs in 2020. Like, the Pirates might have been able to do it somehow, right? So I just haven't liked the whole Ben Cherington experience up to this point. It's been lousy. If you're a fan of this team, like, it's been a lousy 5 years. We sat through 3 of the worst years of Pirates baseball in a century, like since the 50s. No, since but early 50s, like the late 40s, early 50s, like some of the worst baseball we've ever seen in this city. And it's not getting better. It's not getting good enough.
But we're still here, baby.
We're still here. Like Nick says, midseason was fun. We had
there was a couple of weeks that were enjoyable.
Had a good couple of months there. I
So
think it
that's
was
why I
just
wanna
a
add-
week. I think it was a week ago. I said we were still in this thing.
Not to like prolong this too much, but I did want to add here also because Tyler was talking about, like win total. And we talked about this in the offseason. It's not so much like the win total is going to matter that much. It's what happens to get to the win total. And that's why I think this year is kind of disappointing because they were in the thick of things. And you had Paul Skeens come up. You had a lot of things that hit. And then they just completely imploded.
Honestly, at this point, the worst thing for this team would probably be to run off like 19 wins because we're going to be stuck in the same situation. I'm not joking anymore. Like it's like being a Steelers fan. I'm sorry I keep using the Steelers analogy here, but like continuing to go 8-8 just prolongs the inevitable.
Yeah.
If they go like 19-10, like we're
You
going to
know
have
what?
another year of the same old.
If they go 19-10, like that's 81-81 for the year. I wouldn't be like happy with it, but like that's not
19-10
not
was probably
that
a little
bad.
extreme.
But I
If
get
they go
Tyler's
to
it's not that
point.
bad.
Tyler's point is by doing that, then you're saving jobs that don't deserve to be saved.
Yes.
Like me personally, I want them to win 19-10, like, or 19-10. I want them to do that. I want them to get to 81 wins, right? I want the team to win. I want them to compete. I don't want losers on this team. I don't want them to continue to melt down and be bad. I want them to be good. But what Tyler's alluding to is big picture. By them doing that, prolongs. Oh, well, then you know what? Here's Shelton. Here's your excuse of why you can stay.
Yeah.
So it's
And
the
that-
gift and the curse. They can compete and do well.
I would
and
welcome.
then-
I would welcome 19-10 with
Obviously.
open arms.
Okay, and there's different ways to do 19-10. Like Paul Skeens and the young guys, no Neil Cruz, all these guys go off. Then you feel better about it. But if it's like a 500 like we saw last year, where it was a bunch of guys that won't be here in the future that just play 500 ball for a couple months and it saves a bunch of jobs because you played well enough for a couple months. I don't want that. I'd rather just lose and let's move on. Let's just keep the ball rolling. Enough of the stagnation.
Yeah, well, like I mean, if they play 500 ball from here on out, it's like 77 wins, and it's like,
yeah,
it's not good enough.
But that was their projected win total, by a lot of outlets. And you could look at it and say, well, we did what we kind of were supposed to do. That's where my mind's at with the whole Shelton coming back.
Oh, man,
My mind is just, what did the projections that Cherington ran, what did they tell him? Like, if you came out with 77 wins, he can go to Bob and was like, well, you know what? Like, we wanted to have playoffs, right? We had anticipated if things go right, they could have, but we saw ourselves more as a 77-win team. And then you look at Shelton and say, well, you did what you were kind of supposed to do. And now Shelton's back because there's no fault. This is what we thought we were.
That makes me want to puke.
I know. You've seen this organization long enough. Haven't we puked every year?
Almost.
About
Yeah,
3?
basically.
You know what, man? If Ben Cherington got the tank for 4 years, I get the tank as a fan for a month. Lose so you guys get fired.
There it is.
Yeah, I wonder what Alex meant by biblical. Like how bad is biblical proportions? What would they have to do to get Cherington canned? Like
Locust.
if they lose every game from here on out, they go 62-100. Like
Bad thing is like I don't
if they
feel like
win
that's super
5,
off the table.
I would say if they lose 95 or more, that's pretty bad, right? That means you win 5 games the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's tough.
Is that enough? Is that enough to move the needle? I don't know.
I mean that's
Sure.
a tough one to defend, keeping her around. Fun times.
All right.
Yeah. What else
Anything
we got? What
else?
else happened? Did we miss anything?
I don't know. Did David Bednar give up another run? God.
Does David Bednar get the next save situation?
Yeah.
Like, is David Bednar your closer right now?
Is the question, is he my closer or is he the Pirates closer?
Is he your closer? Like, if you were managing the next game and it's the 7th inning, the Pirates are up 4-2. Who you going with 7th, 8th, 9th?
Honestly,
That's a hard question.
Yeah, honestly. No, I want you to lie.
Nicholas
David Bednar.
Majinski Chapman.
Nicholas Majinski Chapman.
I think like at this point in time, I don't even. It's not even like let's put Bednar in the setup or like let's just get Bednar just kind of out of there. Let's get him in some really really low pressure moments. Just try to get his mentals right. But I'm looking at Nicholas Majinski and Chapman.
It's going to depend on my matchup because I'm just going to throw the entire 7, 8, 9 bullpen usage out the door and use Chapman whenever necessary. Whatever we have lefties coming up, go there. I'll probably still keep Bednar in the mix 7, 8, 9, but it's going to be 4 guys. Majinski. I'm not all the way there with Nicholas yet, but he's more on the lower end of like 6th or 7th. And
Well, who are you there with of this bullpen?
Well, nobody, to be fair, and I'm still keeping Bednar in the mix, but like here and there, I'm not committed to him being the ninth inning guy. Maybe use him in the 8th inning situation, bottom of the order, something like that if we have lefties coming up. But I'm not committing to anything because I'm a good manager.
You know what I find interesting with this just
Forget about Santana.
complete
as well.
collapse of David Bednar is like his stuff hasn't really regressed. He's got the like if you're going every pitcher in baseball who's pitched 40 or more innings, David Bednar is the 18th best stuff plus in baseball. He's second on the team behind Chapman, and that's it. Like it's Chapman, Bednar, Jones, Nicholas.
Oh, Nicholas is dropped then.
So like I don't understand what's wrong. The fastball is as good as it's ever been. Like we're seeing it hit 99. The control isn't great. He's walking more batters, but like I feel like people are just hitting the ball and they shouldn't be. Like I don't know. I don't know if he's someone saying maybe he's tipping his pitches. Maybe maybe that's it. But there's something going on there where it just doesn't add up. Like it doesn't add up that he shouldn't be this bad. Because let's not forget, like David Bednar over the last 3 seasons, top 3 reliever in baseball, and like in the league. This isn't just like in the division or in National League. Like he's been one of the best relief pitchers in the game for many years, and it just fell off a cliff this year. Home runs up, walks up. I mean, I guess that's your answer right there. Home runs up, walks up, and
Right.
he's not leaving
But to
people
your
on
point,
base.
why are the home runs up?
Yeah, home runs are up, walks are up, and he's not leaving people on base. Like the people, his left on base percentage is 59.5%. That's almost impossible. I feel like that's really, really low. Like MLB average is like 70, 71, 72. And that he's always been in like the mid 70s range. So just something's going on where he's just not the same guy, but the stuff still looks good. It's weird. His fastball's faster than it's ever been in his career. He's throwing a harder fastball this year than he ever has in his career.
Maybe he needs to slow down.
Maybe. It's weird. I'm with Tyler, though. Like, I'm not naming a closer right now, but I do think it's time to just use your bullpen and match up the best you can. So, Derek Shelton, your job got a little bit harder because now you can't just go like Holderman, Chapman, Bednar. You can't really just pencil that in anymore. Like, you're gonna have to play the matchups and put people in the best spots to succeed. You can't just keep trotting Bednar out there in the ninth every game,
and you can't leave him. And you can't leave him out there until the game is absolutely lost.
Yeah,
that also does hurt him. Like they'll leave him out there until they are losing. When he obviously doesn't have it, doesn't matter. They're leaving him.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is just all frustrating. I'm getting more annoyed as we talk.
It is frustrating. I will say this, like one thing that about the bullpen, like Dennis Santana has kind of emerged as one of my favorite dudes in this bullpen. He's been really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been slow lately.
Slider, sweeper, whichever he throws, has been nasty this year.
Yeah, I mean his whole August. I mean he's gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight appearances without giving up a run. And I feel like he comes in some big moments and like gets big outs. And he's not just pitching like 1 out or 2 outs. Like he's going out there and giving you an inning and a third, inning and 2/3, 2 innings. He's done a really good job. That's been a good pickup.
Yeah, he's definitely been in more high leverage situations recently, and still doing it. So again, like I think I said it on the last post game that I was on, that I just want to keep giving him more and more credit because he's earning it and deserving it. But it's one of the few. Like, who do you trust? Again, Chapman, I kind of do. It was a terrible game as last time, but he's been pitching more effectively. It's like Majinski and Santana. But I kind of give him the nod over Nicholas at this point in time. I think just because it's the end of the year and that's certainly a guy looking for the future. But I'm not like the biggest Nicholas fan either.
Northeast Ohio guy. Let him live.
Well, let's just end it with this. Onel Cruz has been on fire. I'm excited about Onel Cruz's finish to this year because the dude is what, 3.2 WAR on the year? Like by far the best offensive player on the team. I think Brian Reynolds like a 2.1. Onel Cruz a 3.2. Clearing.
Onel Cruz 3.3 now on Fangraphs.
Okay, then 3.3.
Yeah, 34th best position player in baseball.
Yeah. Like he's good. He's good. So I want to still continue to see him grow and develop, and now to see him play outfield. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. You saw that throw at home plate. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. So let's see how this experiment goes. Let's see how he does out there and continue with that bat because they need him to be this guy next year. And again, like he could end this year as a 4-WAR player. All the scrutiny that Onel Cruz had this year, and he might walk out of here being a 4-WAR player.
Yeah, I mean, he should. As long as his defense doesn't tank in center field. I will say this, and Nick brings up a good point. He hits the ball really hard. He's getting a ton of doubles. I do want to see him hit the ball over the fence a few times.
Is Jim just going to take every one of my points for the last 2 weeks?
That's what he does.
Hold on. The reason for that,
and then the fans go, "Oh, we love Jim. Jim's so smart."
I got a futures. I got a futures bet,
All right.
22.5. Like,
Oh, you need that.
I need you to hit that, O'Neal.
Right.
I need 5 more homers.
But no, he does. Like, that's, I said the last time I said that the next thing I want to see from O'Neal Cruz was hitting off the lefties. This the next step, I think, is we got to see the ball hit over the wall more. And like, we're talking about a half an inch from him having 3 home runs like 2 days ago.
Oh yeah, and like I said, he's hitting the ball hard. It's just get a little bit more launch angle on there, and those doubles are home runs.
Yeah,
but all super encouraging. I think it's since July 1st. I think it's 16 doubles he's had to this point, and also again like the 12 stolen bases in that time frame. That's what's really encouraging. Also, the guy is now showing the wheels. I think. I mean, just mentally, he's in a good spot. He's well past the injury. Now he's in the outfield. He just looks good. He looks good.
Yeah, the stolen bases are really refreshing because you didn't see him in the early part of the year, and maybe that had to do with the injury, like coming back. But yeah, I mean, 10 stolen bases in August. He was 10 for 10 on stolen base attempts in August. So yeah, he's been really good. Really, ever since the All-Star break, he's been outstanding, and you're seeing him really develop into a weapon, and he's exactly who he's turning into, the guy that we were hoping to see him turn into. And that's why I'm kind of interested in how this center field goes, because I think he could be a really good center fielder too. Like I liked him at shortstop because there was no one else there who can play the position. But he also has all the skills to be a really good center fielder. And if you're a center fielder and you're hitting like that too, you're still really valuable.
Which is why I said, and I'll still reiterate, I'm happy they chose center and not right field. That's where at least they got this part right.
Yep. Because the bat still has a ton of value in center field.
Again,
I mean,
potential 30-30 guy in center. Go, Ty.
No, I'm with you. And I'm going back to it. Like, the part that I wanted to see was him buy into it. We don't have to agree with the decision, but you wanted to see that maturity out of O'Neal Cruz. You want to see that step he took. And I think we saw a good bit of maturity just even the last couple of days, like him posting the photo in center field on Instagram, like little things like that. I know it's corny. It don't matter, but like he could be pouting and he's not. So it doesn't at least seem like he's pouting.
He told you right then and there, this is my position. This is me. I did like it. I loved the wave in the outfield. He made the first catch, making light of it. I've loved everything. That's why I said he seems to be embracing it. He's disappointed that he's not at short. It's an internal failure, I'm sure it feels like. This is now my position. I want to make the most of it, and it seems like that's what he is doing.
I think it was Alex who said it too. Like he's going to get plenty of opportunities to still be like that StatCast darling that he was at shortstop. Like he's going to be able to get the balls that a lot of people can't get to. He's going to make throws that no one else can make. His first throw of his center field career was the second hardest throw in Major League Baseball this season. Like, and that was just
6th hardest ever in StatCast history, right?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, that was his first one ever. So like, and I think it was Wayner. No, it was Walker. Walker was on the broadcast. He mentioned like he's throwing it like an infielder too. Like wait until he learns to throw like an outfielder. Like give him a crow hop and extend that arm back out and throw over, overhand without the tail. Like that backspin, throw a 4-seam fastball right to home plate. Like he'll have the number one throw with before too long. And I think that's another thing to kind of keep him, I don't know, keep him interested, but it's just another cool thing that he can do that no one else can do.
He's uber athletic, right? He's 6'7", right? I know the range. He'll make some fantastic plays. I know the arm. He'll make some fantastic throws. I'm waiting for that home run he robs, where like his entire shoulders are over the wall.
And he didn't jump.
You know what I mean? Like you see G1 Bay or Michael A. Taylor out there, and they're robbing something. The gloves over the wall, even like Brian Reynolds at times in center. I'm waiting for O'Neal to just clear the wall. Going Vince Carter out there and Robin home run, just being like, holy shit. How did he get that ball? Yeah, again, like it's not ideal. We batted for him to be at short. We understood why, but there's still going to be some spectacular stuff from O'Neal Cruz in center field to be excited about. And we have a month left of it. So we can be excited about that.
If I can, one more thing that Alex did mention while he was on. It was the little small piece, but about O'Neal Cruz wanting to be out there as soon as possible. Like, I felt like they were going to keep him at DH for at least a week and let him learn it. And from what Alex said, it seemed at least like, and I don't want to put words in Alex's mouth, but it seemed like Cruz was kind of pushing to be out there as soon as possible. So another encouraging thing.
Very.
Yep. All right.
Cool. We
got
out of here
anything
then?
else?
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. We spent an hour and 20 minutes on this team.
Yeah, I think that does it for today. Who do
Do it
we
again tomorrow.
what do we got? We got the
Guardians.
Guardians in Cleveland, right?
God.
Yep.
I said they need to lose. Never mind. I don't want Cleveland to win anything ever.
Well, I think Cleveland lost first place in the AL. I think the Royals caught
Good.
them, right?
Bury 'em.
Guardians got back on top. So
Bury
I
'em.
think the Guardians won.
Bury that
But,
garbage city.
yeah, I mean Cleveland's playing for something right now. That's for sure.
They can play for the basement. Get rid of them.
Yeah. We could also talk about the Royals, but we won't.
No.
But yeah. Royals looking pretty good. After I talked about them this offseason and got told, oh, the Royals, they're not going to do anything. Anyways, we'll move on. Let's get out of here. Appreciate y'all watching. Do all the fun stuff, like not watching Pirates baseball, but liking and subscribing to our channel. Hey, we just hit 5,000 subscribers. So thank you all for that also. And if you're listening to the podcast, leave a nice little comment also. Leave a little rating. All three of us had very good conversations tonight. We did very well. You should inform us of that.
Yeah, positive feedback only on the reviews.
Mind you, Alex is not part of the show.
Yeah. I know you weren't happy with Alex, but hey,
Right.
we asked the tough questions.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure who's on the post game, but we will be back tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Cyber Scouts.
See you guys.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.